Is someone there? Are you okay? The sniffling stopped abruptly. Pushing the door open wider, Olivia found herself in what appeared to be a child's bedroom, but not just any bedroom. The space was enormous, with a custom rocket ship bed, walls painted like the night sky complete with glow-in-the-dark stars, and shelves filled with more books and toys than some small libraries. In the corner, sitting in a window seat overlooking the estate's magnificent gardens, was a small boy around 7 years old. His eyes were red-rimmed, and he quickly wiped away tears when he saw her. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice small but with an unmistakable air of someone used to adults answering his questions. "I'm Miss Reed, Olivia Reed. I'm a teacher, and I got a little lost during the tour," she explained, keeping her distance so as not to frighten him. "Are you okay?" "I heard someone crying." The boy straightened his shoulders. "I wasn't crying. I had something in my eye." Olivia smiled gently. It was a line she'd heard from countless proud children in her classroom. "Of course. Happens to me all the time." "I'm Daniel," the boy said after a moment. "Daniel Bennett." "Bennett!" Olivia's heart skipped a beat. This must be Nathan Bennett's son. The reclusive tech millionaire rarely appeared in public, but his innovation in sustainable energy storage had made him one of the wealthiest men in the state, and she was standing uninvited in his son's bedroom. "I should really find my way back to the tour," Olivia said, backing toward the door. "Could you maybe point me in the right direction?" Daniel's face fell. "Do you have to go right away?" "No one's home except Ms. Winters, and she's busy with the tour groups." Olivia hesitated. She needed to get back to her students, but the sadness in the boy's eyes tugged at her heart. "Is Ms. Winters your nanny?" Daniel shook his head. "She's the house manager. My nanny quit last week. Dad's interviewing new ones." "I see." Olivia glanced at her watch again. Her teaching assistant was with the class, and they wouldn't leave without her. She could spare a few minutes. "What were you reading before I interrupted?" she asked, noticing the book on the window seat. Daniel's eyes lit up. "The Chronicles of Narnia, but I'm stuck on some of the words. Dad usually helps me, but he's been really busy lately." "That's one of my favorites," Olivia said, approaching the window seat. "Would you like me to help you with those tricky words?" The boy nodded eagerly, making room for her on the cushioned bench. Olivia sat down, took the book, and began to read, helping Daniel sound out the more difficult words. Soon they were taking turns reading paragraphs, and Daniel's earlier tears were forgotten as they journeyed together through the magical world of Narnia. Olivia didn't notice the time passing or hear the door open wider. She was in full teacher mode, asking Daniel questions about the story and praising his reading skills, which were impressive for his age. Preparing and narrating the story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. "Who are you, and what are you doing in my son's room?" The deep voice from the doorway made Olivia jump. Standing there was a tall man with dark hair, streaked with premature gray at the temples, wearing an expensive-looking suit that did nothing to soften his intimidating presence. His piercing blue eyes moved from her to Daniel and back again, narrowing with suspicion. "Dad!" Daniel exclaimed, not seeming at all concerned by his father's stern tone. "This is Miss Reed. She's a teacher, and she's helping me with the hard words in my book." "A teacher?" Nathan Bennett raised an eyebrow, his stance relaxing slightly, but his expression remaining guarded. "From the tour group?" Olivia stood quickly, smoothing her simple dress with suddenly sweaty palms. "Yes, Mr. Bennett. I'm so sorry for the intrusion. I got separated from my class and was trying to find my way back when I heard your son. I should have found a staff member instead of entering a private room." Nathan studied her for a long moment. Up close, he was even more intimidating and handsome than the few photos she'd seen in local news articles. The self-made millionaire had a reputation for being brilliant but intensely private, especially when it came to his son. "Dad, can Miss Reed stay longer? She does the best voices," Daniel pleaded, breaking the tension, something in Nathan's expression softened as he looked at his son, the first genuine emotion Olivia had seen from him. "Daniel, I'm sure Miss Reed needs to get back to her students." "Actually," Olivia said, glancing at her watch. "I'm afraid the tour must be over by now. The buses were scheduled to leave 10 minutes ago." Panic welled up inside her. This was beyond unprofessional. She had essentially abandoned her class. "I see." Nathan pulled out his phone. "Ellis, could you check if the school tour buses have departed yet?" He listened for a moment. "They have? I see. No, it's fine. Thank you." He put his phone away and fixed Olivia with an unreadable look. "It seems your colleagues assumed you had found other transportation. The buses have left." Olivia felt the blood drain from her face. "Oh no, this is terrible. I've never done anything like this before." Principal Harrison is going to be furious. Her mind raced with the implications. She could lose her job over this lapse in judgment. "Miss Reed was helping me, Dad," Daniel said, his voice small but determined. "Don't be mad at her." Nathan looked at his son with surprise, then back at Olivia. "Daniel rarely warms up to strangers," he said, as if that explained something important. After a moment, he sighed. "I can have my driver take you back to your school, Miss Reed." "That's very kind, but I couldn't impose." "I insist," Nathan cut her off. "It's the least we can do since our home's confusing layout contributed to your predicament." Before Olivia could respond, her phone rang. Principal Harrison. She answered with trepidation, stepping into the hallway for privacy. "Olivia, where are you?" her principal demanded without preamble. "Mrs. Peterson said you disappeared during the tour. The buses had to leave without you." "I'm so sorry, Principal Harrison. I got lost in the mansion and ended up in a different wing. Mr. Bennett is arranging transportation for me now." Even to her own ears, the explanation sounded ridiculous. There was a long pause. "Mr. Bennett? Nathan Bennett? You're with the owner of the estate?" "Yes. I accidentally wandered into his son's room while trying to find my way back." Another pause. "I see. Well, this is highly irregular, Olivia. We'll need to discuss this incident when you return. The students are all accounted for, at least thanks to Mrs. Peterson." "I understand. I'll be back as soon as possible." Olivia hung up, her hands shaking slightly. In 6 years of teaching, she'd never had a blemish on her record. Now this. When she returned to the room, Nathan was sitting on the edge of Daniel's bed, talking quietly with his son. They both looked up when she entered. "Everything okay?" Nathan asked, his tone marginally less frosty than before. "Not really," Olivia admitted. "My principal is understandably upset. I've never been so unprofessional before." "Dad, can Miss Reed stay for dinner?" Daniel asked suddenly. "Please. She can tell us more about her students. I bet she has funny stories." "Daniel, Miss Reed needs to get back to her school," Nathan said firmly. "Actually," Olivia said, checking the time, "school would be finished for the day by the time I got back. But I should still head home. I've imposed enough." "See, Dad, she doesn't have to go back to school," Daniel persisted. "And you said we were just having pasta tonight. There's always too much anyway." Nathan looked at his son's hopeful face, then at Olivia's embarrassed one. Something in his expression shifted, as if he were calculating variables in a complex equation. "Would you join us for dinner, Miss Reed?" he finally asked. "It seems my son has taken quite a liking to you, and he's right. Our chef always makes enough pasta to feed an army." Olivia was taken aback by the invitation. "That's very kind, but I couldn't possibly—" "Please, Miss Reed." Daniel's eyes were wide and pleading. "Dad never invites people over." Looking between father and son, Olivia found herself nodding. "If you're sure it's no trouble, I'd be honored." Nathan's mouth quirked in what might have been the beginning of a smile. "I'll have Ellis inform the kitchen we'll be 3 for dinner. In the meantime, perhaps you'd like a tour of the parts of the house you haven't accidentally explored yet?" For the first time since getting lost, Olivia laughed. "I think I've done enough unauthorized exploring for one day." That unexpected laugh seemed to surprise Nathan, and his stern expression softened further. "Fair enough. Perhaps the library, then? It's Daniel's favorite room besides his own." "The library?" Olivia couldn't hide her enthusiasm. "That's actually what I was trying to find when I got lost. I read that it has first editions of classic children's literature." "It does," Nathan confirmed, standing up. "Daniel, Want to show Miss Reed the secret passage to the library? Daniel jumped up excitedly. Yes, come on, Miss Reed. You're going to love this. As they followed the energetic boy out of the room, Nathan fell into step beside Olivia. I apologize if I seemed harsh earlier. Security is a priority in this house, for obvious reasons. No apology necessary. I was the one trespassing in your private quarters, Olivia replied. I should be thanking you for not calling the police. The corner of Nathan's mouth twitched again. Daniel would never have forgiven me. He's selective about who he connects with. Before Olivia could respond, Daniel had stopped at what appeared to be a normal section of the wood-paneled wall. He pressed a hidden catch, and a door swung open to reveal a narrow passageway. Secret passage, Daniel announced proudly. Grandpa put these in when he was a kid. Dad kept them when he renovated. This is amazing, Olivia said, genuinely impressed as they entered the passage. Subtle lighting illuminated their way through the corridor, which was surprisingly well maintained for a secret passage. My father thought they were childish, but I always found them fascinating, Nathan explained as they walked. When I inherited the estate, keeping them was one of my first decisions. The passage opened into the most beautiful library Olivia had ever seen outside of movies. 2 stories tall with a spiral staircase to an upper level, the walls were lined with bookshelves interrupted only by tall windows and cozy reading nooks. A massive fireplace dominated one wall, with comfortable leather chairs arranged around it. This is incredible, Olivia breathed, turning slowly to take it all in. Over here are the children's classics, Daniel said, pulling her toward a glass-fronted bookcase. Dad has first editions of Alice in Wonderland and The Wind in the Willows and lots more. Olivia bent to examine the precious books, her teacher's heart beating faster at the sight of such literary treasures. These are museum quality, she murmured. They're meant to be read, not just displayed. Nathan said, watching her reaction. My grandmother started the collection. She believed books were meant to be enjoyed, not locked away. A woman after my own heart, Olivia said, straightening up. I tell my students that books are like friends. They need to be visited regularly. Something in Nathan's expression changed as he looked at her, a warming in those cool blue eyes. That's exactly what my grandmother used to say. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, an unexpected connection forming between them. Daniel broke the spell by pulling out a chess set from a cabinet. Can we play, Dad? You could teach Miss Reed. I actually know how to play, Olivia said with a smile. My father taught me when I was about your age. Nathan raised an eyebrow. Are you any good? I'm decent, Olivia replied modestly. I run the chess club at school. A worthy opponent, then, Nathan said, and this time his smile was unmistakable. It transformed his face, softening the sharp lines and making him look years younger. Daniel, set up the board. They spent the next hour playing chess, with Daniel alternating between helping his father and helping Olivia. The atmosphere grew increasingly relaxed, and Olivia found herself enjoying the company of this unusual father-son duo. Nathan Bennett was nothing like she had expected. Beneath the stern exterior was a thoughtful, intelligent man who clearly adored his son, even if he wasn't demonstrative about it. When Ellis, the house manager, announced that dinner was ready, Olivia was surprised by how quickly the time had passed. They made their way to a dining room that was smaller and more intimate than she had expected. With a table set for 3. We use the formal dining room for events, Nathan explained, noticing her surprise. This is where Daniel and I usually eat. Dinner was simple but delicious. Pasta with homemade sauce, fresh bread, and a salad. The conversation flowed more easily than Olivia would have thought possible, with Daniel chattering about school and his father occasionally asking Olivia questions about her teaching career. Why elementary school? Nathan asked as they were served dessert, homemade apple tart with vanilla ice cream. You clearly have the intellect for more advanced subjects. Because it's where the magic happens, Olivia replied without hesitation. 4th grade is when children start to really discover who they are as learners. Their personalities emerge, they develop interests, they learn to think critically. It's incredible to be part of that process. Nathan studied her with new interest. That's not the answer I expected. "What did you expect?" Olivia asked, curious. "Something about it being all you could get, or a stepping stone to administration," he admitted. "Most people I know view their careers in terms of advancement." Olivia shook her head. "Teaching isn't just a career for me. It's a calling. I can't imagine doing anything else." "Miss Reed helped Jason when he was stuck on his math yesterday," Daniel piped up. "She explains things so even dumb kids get it." "Daniel," Nathan said sharply, "we don't call other children dumb." "Sorry," Daniel mumbled, "but Miss Reed is the best teacher ever. All the kids say so." Olivia felt her cheeks warm at the praise. "That's very kind, but I'm just doing my job." "Passion makes all the difference," Nathan observed. "In any field." After dinner, Daniel pleaded for Olivia to read one more chapter of his book before she left. Nathan agreed, and they returned to Daniel's room, where Olivia picked up where they had left off earlier. As she read, she was aware of Nathan leaning against the doorframe, watching her with his son, an unreadable expression on his face. When the chapter ended and Daniel was tucked into bed, Nathan walked Olivia back through the mansion toward the front entrance. "Thank you for your kindness today," Olivia said as they reached the grand foyer. "What started as a professional embarrassment turned into a lovely evening." "Daniel doesn't connect easily with people," Nathan said, his voice quiet. "His mother left when he was 3, and since then he's been guarded." Seeing him respond to you today was remarkable. Olivia's heart ached for the little boy. "He's a wonderful child. Bright, curious, kind. You should be proud." "I am," Nathan said simply. "Every day." He paused, seeming to consider something. "Would you consider coming back?" "Coming back?" Olivia repeated, surprised. "To read with Daniel," Nathan clarified. "He clearly enjoys your company, and with his regular tutor on maternity leave, he could use the extra academic support. I'd compensate you for your time, of course." Olivia considered the offer. On one hand, it would be a chance to help a child who clearly needed some additional attention. On the other, there was something unsettling about the idea of being paid to spend time with a child she had genuinely enjoyed meeting. "I'd be happy to come read with Daniel," she said carefully, "but I couldn't accept payment for it. That would make it feel like a transaction, and I genuinely enjoyed his company." Nathan looked at her with surprise, then respect. "Most people are eager to find ways to bill me for their time." "I'm not most people," Olivia said simply. "And Daniel isn't a line item on an invoice. He's a child who loves books and chess, and has a secret passage to a magnificent library. I'd consider it a privilege to visit him occasionally." For a long moment, Nathan just looked at her, as if trying to solve a particularly complex puzzle. Then he nodded. "Saturday afternoon, perhaps? Around 2? "Saturday at 2 would be perfect," Olivia agreed with a smile. As Nathan's driver prepared to take her home, Nathan handed her his card. "My private number," he said, "in case you need to reach me directly about Daniel." Olivia took the card, oddly touched by this sign of trust from a man known for his privacy. "Thank you, Mr. Bennett." "Nathan," he corrected. "After sharing pasta and chess, I think we can use first names." "Nathan," Olivia repeated, testing the name. "And I'm Olivia." "Olivia," he echoed, and something about the way he said her name made her heart beat a little faster. "Until Saturday." As the luxury car pulled away from the mansion, Olivia looked back at the imposing structure, lights glowing warmly in the evening darkness. What had started as a mortifying professional mistake had somehow turned into... what, exactly? A connection with a lonely little boy? The beginning of a friendship with his enigmatic father? Whatever it was, Olivia found herself looking forward to Saturday with an anticipation that surprised her. Something told her that getting lost in the Bennett mansion might turn out to be the best wrong turn she'd ever taken. When the car dropped her off at her modest apartment building, the contrast between Nathan Bennett's world and hers couldn't have been more stark. Her one-bedroom apartment was cozy and filled with books, but it would fit in a corner of the Bennett library. The building's elevator was perpetually out of order, and her furniture was mostly second-hand pieces she'd refinished herself. Yet as she changed into comfortable clothes and made herself a cup of tea, Olivia didn't feel the disparity as keenly as she might have expected. There had been moments during the evening when Nathan Bennett had seemed just as human and vulnerable as anyone else, particularly when he spoke about his son. Her phone buzzed with a text from a number she didn't recognize. "Daniel wanted me to tell you he's decided which chapter you'll read on Saturday." "Ol-NB." Olivia smiled as she saved the contact information. Saturday couldn't come soon enough. The next day at school was as difficult as she had anticipated. Principal Harrison called her into his office first thing in the morning for a discussion about professional responsibilities and the sacred trust of parents. Olivia accepted the reprimand with grace, acknowledging her mistake in wandering off during the field trip. What she didn't expect was the principal's change in demeanor when she mentioned that she had been invited back to the Bennett Estate to read with Daniel. "Nathan Bennett invited you back, personally?" Principal Harrison's eyebrows nearly disappeared into his hairline. "Yes, his son seems to enjoy reading together, and with his tutor on leave." "This could be an excellent connection for the school," Principal Harrison interrupted, his tone suddenly enthusiastic. "The Bennett Foundation funds educational initiatives throughout the state. Perhaps you could mention our STEM program needs." Olivia frowned. "I'm not going there to solicit donations, Principal Harrison. I'm going to read with a child who needs some additional support." The principal looked disappointed but nodded. Of course. Just keep the school in mind if the opportunity arises naturally." Throughout the day, Olivia found her thoughts drifting back to the Bennett mansion, to Daniel's eager face as they read together, and to Nathan's intense blue eyes watching her with his son. There had been something there, a connection she couldn't quite define but had felt strongly. After school, as she was preparing materials for the next day, her classroom door opened to reveal Megan Harris, the fifth-grade teacher and Olivia's closest friend at Westfield Elementary. "Spill," Megan demanded without preamble, perching on the edge of Olivia's desk. "I hear you got lost in Millionaire Mansion and had dinner with the reclusive Nathan Bennett himself. The whole school is buzzing." Olivia groaned. "News travels fast." "Like lightning," Megan agreed cheerfully. "So? What's he like? Is he as intimidating as they say? Did you see the famous library? Tell me everything." Despite her intention to be discreet, Olivia found herself sharing the details of her unexpected adventure. Getting lost, finding Daniel, reading together, Nathan's initial suspicion giving way to a more complex person than his public image suggested. "And now you're going back on Saturday?" Megan's eyes were wide. "Liv, this is like something out of a movie." "It's not like that," Olivia protested. "I'm just going to read with Daniel. He's a sweet kid who needs some extra attention." "Uh-huh," Megan said skeptically. "And his gorgeous, brilliant, wealthy father has nothing to do with it?" "Megan!" "What?" "I've seen the photos in the business section. The man is a certified silver fox, and he invited you back to his mansion. To help his son," Olivia emphasized. "It's not a date, not yet," Megan said with a knowing smile. "But mark my words, there's more to this story." As Saturday approached, Olivia tried to dismiss Megan's teasing, but she couldn't deny a flutter of anticipation each time she thought about returning to the Bennett estate. She told herself it was excitement about the library and Daniel's enthusiasm for reading, but if she was honest, the thought of seeing Nathan again played a significant role in her anticipation. Saturday morning, Olivia spent more time than usual considering what to wear. She finally settled on a casual but flattering blue dress with a cardigan. Professional enough for tutoring but not as formal as her work clothes. She twisted her hair into a simple knot and applied minimal makeup, trying not to overthink every decision. At precisely 1:45, a sleek black car pulled up outside her apartment building. The driver introduced himself as Thomas and held the door for her with practiced courtesy. The drive to the Bennett estate took about 20 minutes, winding through increasingly affluent neighborhoods until they reached the private road leading to the mansion. This time, instead of entering through the public tour entrance, Thomas drove directly to the front of the house. Ellis, the house manager, was waiting at the door. "Good afternoon, Miss Reed," she said with a polite smile. "Mr. Bennett and Daniel are in the library. May I show you the way?" "Thank you, but I think I remember," Olivia replied. "Through the main hall, left at the portrait gallery, and then the third door on the right?" Ellis looked impressed. "You have an excellent memory." "Yes, that's exactly right." The mansion seemed different without the crowds of the public tour, quieter, more intimate somehow. Olivia made her way through the grand spaces with more confidence than during her accidental exploration, admiring details she had missed before. The craftsmanship of the woodwork, the subtle integration of modern technology into the historic architecture, the personal touches that made this enormous house a home. When she reached the library, the doors were open. Daniel spotted her immediately and ran to greet her with unexpected enthusiasm. "Miss Reed, you came!" "Dad said you would, but sometimes adults don't keep their promises." Olivia knelt to his level. "I always keep my promises, Daniel. I've been looking forward to reading with you all week." "We're playing chess," Daniel said, tugging her hand. "Dad's winning, but I almost got his knight." Nathan rose from his seat by the chess table, and Olivia was struck again by how different he looked in casual clothes. Jeans and a simple button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing strong forearms. Less like a tech millionaire and more like, well, a regular dad. "Olivia," he greeted her, and again, the sound of her name in his voice caused that strange flutter in her chest. "Thank you for coming." "I'm happy to be here," she replied honestly. "Your library is even more beautiful in the daylight." Natural light streamed through the tall windows, illuminating the rich colors of the bookbindings and the warm wood of the shelves. A fire crackled in the massive fireplace despite the mild weather outside, creating an atmosphere of cozy welcome. "Dad had them make cookies," Daniel announced, pointing to a tray on a side table. "And hot chocolate, even though it's not cold out." "Perfect reading weather doesn't depend on the temperature outside," Nathan said with a small smile. "At least, that's what my grandmother always claimed." "She sounds like a wise woman," Olivia said, returning his smile. "The wisest," Nathan agreed. "She would have liked you." There was something in his tone that made Olivia look at him more closely, but Daniel was already pulling her toward the chess table, eager to show her the game in progress. They finished the match together, with Daniel sitting on Olivia's lap as they conspired on moves against Nathan, who played along with mock seriousness, allowing them several advantages that made Daniel crow with delight. Afterward, they settled into a reading nook by the window. Daniel had selected a book of Greek myths, and Olivia took turns reading with him, explaining unfamiliar words and asking questions to check his comprehension. Nathan sat nearby, ostensibly working on a laptop, but Olivia noticed him watching them more often than not, a thoughtful expression on his face. The afternoon passed with remarkable ease, as if this arrangement, the three of them in the library, was a long-established routine rather than only their second meeting. When Daniel grew restless with reading, Nathan suggested they explore the gardens, and soon they were walking the grounds, with Daniel running ahead to point out his favorite spots. "He's different with you," Nathan observed as they watched Daniel examining a frog by the ornamental pond. "More animated. More childlike." "He's a remarkable boy," Olivia said. "Intelligent, perceptive, curious, all the qualities that make teaching rewarding." "He struggles at school," Nathan admitted, surprising her with his candor. "Not academically, but socially. He has trouble connecting with other children." Olivia nodded thoughtfully. "That's not uncommon for exceptionally bright children, especially those who have experienced early loss or change. His mother leaving would have affected his ability to trust and form attachments." Nathan looked at her sharply. "You sound like the child psychologist I consulted last year." "I have a master's in early childhood education with a focus on emotional development," Olivia explained. "Many of my students face similar challenges, though perhaps not in the same circumstances as Daniel." "You continue to surprise me, Olivia Reed," Nathan said softly. "I didn't expect to find someone with your insight in an elementary school classroom." "Elementary education is far more complex than most people realize," Olivia replied, not defensively but matter-of-factly. "We're not just teaching ABCs and multiplication tables. We're helping shape how children see themselves and their place in the world." Nathan was silent for a moment, watching his son. "I worry about him," he finally said. "About the world he's growing up in, about my ability to give him what he needs." "His mother—" He stopped, seeming to reconsider what he had been about to say, Parenting is the hardest job there is, Olivia said gently, and doing it alone must be especially challenging. Even with all the resources in the world, there are some things money can't buy, Nathan said, his voice low. Like a mother who stays, or a father who always knows the right thing to do. The vulnerability in his admission touched Olivia deeply. Before she could respond, Daniel came running back to them, excited about the frog he had found, and completely unaware of the moment of connection between the adults. The rest of the afternoon passed pleasantly, with more reading, a game of hide-and-seek in the garden that even Nathan participated in, much to Daniel's delight, and finally a casual dinner in the family dining room. By the time Olivia prepared to leave, the sun was setting, and Daniel was reluctant to say goodbye. "Can Miss Reed come back tomorrow?" he asked his father, his expression hopeful. "I'm sure Miss Reed has her own plans for Sunday," Nathan said, glancing at Olivia questioningly. "Actually," Olivia admitted, "my Sunday plans usually involve grading papers and preparing for the week ahead." "That sounds boring," Daniel declared. "You should come here instead. We could have a picnic if it's nice out." Nathan looked at his son with a mixture of amusement and something like wonder. "Daniel, we can't just commandeer all of Miss Reed's free time." "Why not?" Daniel asked with a child's direct logic. "She likes being here. You like having her here. I like having her here." "It makes sense." Olivia felt her cheeks warm at the boy's assessment, especially when Nathan didn't immediately contradict his son's statement about his own feelings. "It's not that simple, Daniel," Nathan began, but then he looked at Olivia. Would you like to come back tomorrow? For a picnic, weather permitting." The invitation hung in the air between them, and Olivia knew this was a turning point. One visit to help a child with reading was one thing. 2 days in a row began to look like something else entirely. Looking at Daniel's hopeful face and Nathan's carefully neutral one, Olivia made her decision. "I'd love to come for a picnic," she said. "On one condition." "What's that?" Nathan asked, his expression cautious. "I get to bring dessert," Olivia said with a smile. "My mother's apple pie recipe is legendary, and I haven't had an excuse to bake in ages." Daniel cheered, and Nathan's face relaxed into a genuine smile. "That sounds perfect," he said. 1 o'clock? 1 o'clock, Olivia agreed. As Thomas drove her home in the gathering dusk, Olivia found herself feeling more content than she had in a long time. There was something about the Bennett household, not the luxury or the beautiful surroundings, but the people within it, that resonated with her in an unexpected way. And if her thoughts lingered more on Nathan's rare smile than was entirely appropriate for a professional relationship, well, that was something she would examine later, in the privacy of her own apartment. For now, she had an apple pie to bake and a picnic to look forward to. Olivia woke up early on Sunday morning, sunlight streaming through her apartment windows. For a moment she lay still, savoring the anticipation of the day ahead, a picnic at the Bennett Estate, with Daniel and his enigmatic father, Nathan. The thought made her smile, even as a small voice in her head warned her about getting too attached too quickly. She pushed the covers aside and padded to the kitchen to start her apple pie. Baking had always been therapeutic for her, a way to connect with happy childhood memories of helping her mother in their farmhouse kitchen. As she rolled out the dough with practiced motions, Olivia found herself humming, her thoughts drifting to the previous day, the warm library, Daniel's eager questions, and Nathan's thoughtful gaze following them across the room. "It's just a picnic," she reminded herself aloud, "with a student who needs support and his father who happens to be wealthy, brilliant, unexpectedly vulnerable." All of the above, she admitted silently. By noon, the pie was cooling on her counter, filling the small apartment with the scent of cinnamon and apples. Olivia changed into a casual sundress with a light jacket, appropriate for a spring picnic but still presentable. She twisted her hair into a loose braid and applied minimal makeup, trying not to overthink every decision. As she gathered the pie in her bag, her phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. "Daniel has been watching the clock since breakfast. The chef has prepared an excessive amount of picnic food. Hope you're hungry." Olivia smiled at the message. There was something endearing about this glimpse of their morning, of Daniel's excitement and Nathan's dry humor. She typed back, "Starving, and I hope you both saved room for dessert." The response came quickly. "Daniel says there's always room for pie." At precisely 12:45, Thomas arrived to drive her to the estate. The day was perfect for a picnic. warm with a gentle breeze and scattered clouds providing occasional shade. As they approached the mansion, Olivia felt a flutter of anticipation that had nothing to do with the impressive architecture and everything to do with the people waiting inside. This time, Daniel met her at the door, practically bouncing with excitement. "Miss Reed, you came again, and you brought pie." "I promised I would," Olivia replied, handing the pie to Ellis, who appeared discreetly in the background. "And I always keep my promises." "Dad's in the kitchen checking on the picnic basket," Daniel informed her, taking her hand. "He made sure they included those little sandwiches without crusts, because I told him you said those were your favorite when you were a kid." Olivia felt a warmth bloom in her chest at this detail. She had mentioned that offhandedly during their reading session, and Nathan had remembered and acted on it. It was a small thing, but somehow deeply touching. The kitchen was a surprise. Not the sterile professional space she had imagined, but a warm, welcoming room with a massive island at its center. Nathan stood beside it, supervising as the chef packed an elaborate wicker basket. He looked up when they entered, and Olivia was struck again by how different he appeared in casual clothes. Today, khaki shorts and a navy polo shirt that made his eyes seem even bluer. "Olivia," he greeted her, that same warmth in his voice when he said her name. "I see Daniel found you before you could even get through the door." "I was watching from the window," Daniel admitted unabashedly. "Is that the pie? Can we try it now?" "Daniel," Nathan admonished gently, "the pie is for after our picnic lunch." "Actually," Olivia said with a conspiratorial smile at Daniel, "my mother always said pie could be breakfast, lunch, or dinner. But," she added, seeing Nathan's raised eyebrow, "she also said anticipation makes everything taste better." Daniel considered this wisdom. "So if we wait, the pie will taste even better?" "Exactly," Olivia confirmed. "Your mother sounds like a wise woman," Nathan observed, echoing her earlier comment about his grandmother. "The wisest," Olivia replied, returning his words from the day before. Something passed between them in that moment. A recognition, an understanding, a shared appreciation for the family wisdom that had shaped them. It was broken when the chef announced the picnic basket was ready, and Daniel immediately began tugging them toward the door. The estate gardens were even more beautiful than Olivia had realized during their brief exploration the day before. Manicured lawns gave way to more natural areas with wildflowers and ancient trees, and a small stream wound through the property, widening into a pond where ducks glided serenely across the surface. Daniel led them to a massive oak tree on a gentle slope overlooking the water. A blanket had already been laid out, large enough for the three of them with plenty of room for the impressive picnic spread. "This is my favorite spot," Daniel informed Olivia as they settled onto the blanket. "Dad says this tree is over 200 years old. It was here before the house was even built." "It's magnificent," Olivia agreed, looking up at the sprawling branches. "Trees like this have seen so much history." "That's what Dad says too. He says it's like having a time machine in our yard." Nathan, who was unpacking the picnic basket, glanced up with surprise. "You remember me saying that? You were only 4. "I remember lots of things," Daniel said with a shrug, as if it were obvious, like how Mom used to sing that French song when she was painting, or how you and Miss Reed both think books are like friends. An uncomfortable silence fell at the mention of Daniel's mother. Olivia saw Nathan's expression close off slightly, his movements becoming more deliberate as he continued arranging the food. "You paint too, don't you, Daniel?" Olivia asked gently, changing the subject. "I noticed some beautiful artwork in your room that looked original." Daniel brightened immediately. "Dad got me real canvases and professional paints for my birthday, not just kid stuff. I'm working on a painting of the garden for my art teacher." The conversation flowed easily after that, centered around Daniel's interests and school experiences. The picnic food was delicious. Gourmet sandwiches, fresh fruit, homemade potato salad, and lemonade that tasted like summer in a glass. Olivia couldn't remember the last time she had enjoyed a meal so much, and it wasn't just the quality of the food. After they had eaten their fill, Daniel spotted a friend from his nature class near the pond with his family and asked permission to go say hello. Nathan watched him go with a thoughtful expression. "He's different this weekend," he said quietly. "More animated, more confident." Even Ellis mentioned it. "Children respond to feeling secure and valued," Olivia replied. Daniel clearly adores you, but having additional positive adult connections is important for any child, especially one whose mother decided parenthood wasn't compatible with her artistic freedom, Nathan said, a rare edge entering his voice. Olivia hesitated, sensing the pain behind his words. If you don't mind me asking, how long has it been since she left? 4 years, Nathan replied, his gaze fixed on Daniel in the distance. Camille is a talented painter. We met at a gallery showing her work. She was vibrant, passionate, completely different from anyone in my usual circles. I fell hard and fast. He paused, seeming to consider how much to share. We married quickly, and Daniel came along a year later. For a while it seemed perfect. But Camille started to feel trapped by domesticity, by the routine of motherhood. She took longer and longer trips to Paris, to Rome, to wherever inspiration called her. Then one day, she just didn't come back. I'm so sorry, Olivia said softly. That must have been devastating for both you and Daniel. The hardest part was explaining to a 3-year-old why his mother wasn't coming home, Nathan said, his voice tight with controlled emotion. How do you tell a child that he wasn't enough reason for her to stay? Olivia's heart ached for them both. You don't, she said. You tell him that sometimes adults make choices that have nothing to do with the children who love them. That her leaving was about her limitations, not his worthiness of love. Nathan looked at her then, really looked at her, as if seeing her fully for the first time. That's exactly what the child psychologist said we should tell him, and it's what I've tried to do. But sometimes I wonder if it's enough. It's never enough to make up for a parent who leaves, Olivia said gently. But it can be enough to help a child grow up secure in the knowledge that one parent stayed, no matter what. That one parent's love is absolute and unconditional. You speak from experience, Nathan observed. Olivia nodded, surprised at herself for being willing to share something so personal. My father left when I was 8. One day he was there. The next he was gone to start a new family in another state. My mother raised me alone on a teacher's salary in rural Ohio. That couldn't have been easy. It wasn't, Olivia acknowledged, but my mother never once made me feel like I wasn't enough, like I wasn't worth every sacrifice she made. That's why I became a teacher. I saw firsthand the difference one dedicated adult can make in a child's life. They fell silent, watching Daniel by the pond, his animated gestures visible even from a distance as he chatted with his friend. He likes you, Nathan said finally. He trusts you, which doesn't come easily to him. I like him too, Olivia replied honestly. He's a special child. And what about his father? Nathan asked, his tone lightening slightly. What do you think of him? The directness of the question caught Olivia off guard. She turned to find Nathan watching her with those intense blue eyes, a hint of vulnerability beneath his confident exterior. I think his father is more complex than his public image suggests, she answered carefully. I think he's dedicated, intelligent, and deeply committed to his son's well-being. I think he's someone I'd like to know better. A smile slowly spread across Nathan's face. Not the reserved, polite smile she had seen before, but something warmer, more genuine. I'd like that too, he said quietly. The moment was interrupted by Daniel racing back up the hill, full of excitement about the tadpoles his friend had found in the pond. The conversation shifted back to safer topics, but something had changed between Olivia and Nathan. A door had been opened, an invitation extended and accepted. When they finally packed up the picnic and returned to the house, Daniel insisted on showing Olivia his art studio, a bright room with north-facing windows that had been converted from a former sunroom. Easels held paintings in various stages of completion, and supplies were organized neatly on shelves and in drawers. This is incredible, Daniel, Olivia said, genuinely impressed by both the setup and the quality of the boy's work. You have real talent. Mom was better, Daniel said matter-of-factly, without apparent distress. Dad says I got her artistic eye. And his analytical mind, Nathan added from the doorway. It's a powerful combination. They spent the remainder of the afternoon in the art studio, with Daniel showing Olivia his techniques, and Nathan occasionally adding comments or asking questions. The dynamic between them felt increasingly natural, as if they had known each other far longer than 2 days. When it was finally time for Olivia to leave, Daniel asked the question she had been both expecting and dreading. "When will you come back, Miss Reed?" Olivia glanced at Nathan, unsure how to respond. This weekend had been wonderful, but she was acutely aware of crossing professional boundaries. She was, after all, Daniel's classmate's teacher, and Nathan was, well, Nathan Bennett, tech millionaire and one of the most eligible bachelors in the state, according to Megan's gossipy updates. "Miss Reed has her own life, Daniel," Nathan said gently. "We can't expect her to spend all her free time with us." "But she likes being here," Daniel insisted. "Don't you, Miss Reed?" "I do," Olivia admitted honestly. "Very much." Nathan seemed to consider something, then made a decision. "Daniel has a school holiday this Friday," he said. "I was planning to take the day off to spend with him. Perhaps you'd like to join us? I thought we might take the boat out on the lake, if the weather holds." "You have a boat?" Olivia asked, then immediately felt foolish. Of course he had a boat. He probably had several. Nathan's mouth quirked in that almost smile. "Just a small sailboat. Nothing extravagant. I find being on the water clarifying." The invitation hung between them, and Olivia knew that accepting would mean acknowledging that this was becoming more than a teacher helping a student, more than a chance encounter evolving into friendship. It was stepping onto a path that could lead somewhere she hadn't expected to go. "I'd have to request the day off," she said slowly. "We don't have the same holiday schedule as Daniel's school." "Of course," Nathan nodded, his expression carefully neutral. "If it's not possible." "But I have some personal days saved up," Olivia continued. "And I'd love to join you both on the lake." Daniel cheered, and Nathan's face relaxed into a genuine smile. "Perfect," he said. "I'll text you the details." As Thomas drove her home, Olivia's thoughts swirled. What was she doing? Getting involved with a parent, even one whose child wasn't directly in her class, was complicated at best, potentially career-threatening at worst. And the differences in their worlds were so vast that it seemed almost absurd to imagine any kind of future together. Yet she couldn't deny the connection she felt to both Daniel and Nathan, or the way the hours in their company seemed to fly by. For the first time in years, she was experiencing something beyond her comfortable routine of teaching, grading, planning, repeat. It was exhilarating and terrifying in equal measure. By the time she reached her apartment, Olivia had decided to simply take each day as it came. Friday's sailing excursion would be another opportunity to get to know this unusual father-son duo better, and after that would take care of itself. Her phone buzzed with a text as she was unlocking her door. It was from Nathan. "Daniel wants me to tell you that your pie was even better than the anticipation. High praise from a 7-year-old with exacting standards. Thank you for today, Olivia." She smiled as she typed her reply. "Thank you both for a lovely day. I'm already looking forward to Friday." Inside her apartment, Olivia was greeted by the still lingering scent of apple pie and the familiar comfort of her modest home. Yet somehow, it felt different now, as if her experiences at the Bennett Estate had shifted her perception of her own space. It wasn't that her apartment suddenly seemed inadequate compared to Nathan's mansion. Rather, she realized that what made a space special wasn't its size or grandeur, but the connections formed within it. The Bennett Estate was beautiful, but what drew her back wasn't the architecture or the amenities, it was the people. As she prepared for the week ahead, Olivia found herself thinking about this unexpected turn her life had taken. A week ago, she had been simply Miss Reed, dedicated 4th-grade teacher with a predictable routine and modest ambitions. Now she was. What exactly? A friend to a lonely millionaire and his artistic son? Potentially something more? Whatever was happening, Olivia decided as she finally crawled into bed, it felt like waking up after a long sleep. Like colors were brighter, possibilities wider, the future less prescribed than she had believed. Getting lost in Nathan Bennett's mansion might have been an accident, but choosing to return was a decision she made with her eyes wide open. As she drifted off to sleep, Olivia wondered what Friday's sailing adventure would bring, and what other unexpected journeys might lie ahead. For the first time in a very long time, Not knowing the answer felt like the beginning of an adventure rather than a cause for anxiety. The week passed with agonizing slowness. Olivia threw herself into her teaching, but her thoughts kept drifting to the Bennett Estate, to Daniel's enthusiastic smile and Nathan's thoughtful gaze. They exchanged texts throughout the week. Nathan sending a photo of Daniel proudly holding up a completed painting, Olivia sharing a funny story from her classroom, small connections bridging the days apart. When Friday finally arrived, Olivia woke before her alarm, anticipation making sleep impossible. The weather was perfect, sunny with enough breeze for sailing, according to Nathan's text the night before. She dressed carefully in shorts and a lightweight blouse, practical shoes for a boat, her hair braided to keep it from tangling in the wind. Thomas arrived promptly at 9, and the now familiar drive to the Bennett Estate seemed shorter than ever. This time, both Nathan and Daniel were waiting outside when she arrived, a picnic basket and sailing gear already loaded into a Range Rover, parked in the circular drive. "Miss Reed," Daniel called, running to meet her. "Dad says the wind is perfect today. Have you ever been sailing before?" "Once, a long time ago," Olivia admitted. "I wasn't very good at it." "Don't worry," Daniel assured her with the confidence of a child. "Dad's the best sailor ever. He won't let anything happen to you." Nathan approached more sedately, but his smile was warm. "Good morning, Olivia. Thank you for taking the day off to join us." "I should be thanking you for the invitation," she replied. "It's been too long since I've had an adventure." Something flickered in Nathan's eyes at her words. Approval, perhaps, or recognition of a kindred spirit. "Well then," he said, "let's not waste a moment of it." The lake was about 30 minutes from the estate, a pristine body of water surrounded by forests and dotted with small coves and inlets. The Bennett family had a private dock on a secluded stretch of shoreline, where a sleek sailboat waited, gleaming white against the blue water. "She's beautiful," Olivia said as Nathan expertly guided them out of the small boathouse. "Dad built her himself," Daniel announced proudly. "From a kit, but still, it took forever." 3 years of weekends, Nathan confirmed. "It was my therapy after Camille left. Something I could control, create, see through to completion." The simple honesty of this admission touched Olivia deeply. She was beginning to understand that beneath Nathan's reserved exterior was a man who felt things intensely, who had found ways to channel his pain into creation rather than destruction. Once on the water, Nathan was indeed as skilled as Daniel had claimed. He handled the boat with easy confidence, explaining the basics to Olivia and letting Daniel demonstrate his own growing proficiency. They sailed around the lake, exploring hidden coves and watching eagles soar overhead. In the middle of the lake, Nathan dropped anchor so they could swim and enjoy the picnic lunch. The water was cool but refreshing, and Daniel showed off his improving swimming skills while Nathan kept a watchful eye. Afterward, they spread their picnic on the boat's deck, another delicious meal prepared by the Bennett chef, though Nathan admitted he had made the chocolate chip cookies himself. "You bake?" Olivia asked, surprised. "Poorly," Nathan admitted with a self-deprecating smile, "but Daniel requested them specifically, so I made the attempt." "They're actually really good," Daniel said, already on his second cookie. "Dad's getting better." "High praise indeed," Nathan said dryly, but Olivia could see the pleasure in his eyes at his son's approval. After lunch, they continued their journey around the lake. At Daniel's insistence, Nathan even let Olivia take the tiller for a while, standing close behind her to guide her hands when necessary. His proximity sent a flutter through her that had nothing to do with the boat's gentle rocking, and everything to do with the warmth of his body near hers, the low timbre of his voice in her ear as he explained how to feel the wind and respond to the water's movement. By late afternoon, Daniel had fallen asleep in the cabin below deck, worn out from swimming and excitement. Nathan and Olivia sat in comfortable silence on deck, watching the sun begin its descent toward the horizon. "Thank you for today," Olivia said finally. "It's been magical." "Thank you for coming," Nathan replied, "for being so good with Daniel, for—" He hesitated, then continued more softly, "for seeing us, the real us, not the headlines or the bank accounts." "Is that unusual?" Olivia asked. "People seeing the real you?" Nathan considered the question. "More than you might imagine. When you have what I have, The company, the wealth, the public profile. People see what they want to see, what they can use, what fits their narrative. He looked out over the water. Even Camille, I think, fell in love with the idea of me rather than the reality. And what is the reality? Olivia asked gently. Nathan was quiet for so long that she thought he might not answer. Then, just a man trying to raise his son well, trying to build something meaningful, trying to figure out what matters after you've achieved all the external markers of success. The simplicity and honesty of his answer moved her. I think you're doing a remarkable job, she said. Daniel is extraordinary, and that reflects on you. He is, isn't he? Nathan agreed, pride evident in his voice. Sometimes I look at him and can't believe I had any part in creating someone so purely good. They fell silent again, the gentle lapping of water against the hull the only sound. The moment felt suspended in time, perfect in its simplicity, profound in its connection. Finally, Nathan spoke again, his voice quiet but resolute. Olivia, I want to be clear about something. These past 2 weekends, and today, they've meant a great deal to me, to us. And I hope, he paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. I hope this is the beginning of something, not just a pleasant interlude. Olivia's heart quickened at his words. I hope that too, she admitted. But Nathan, our worlds are so different. I'm a public school teacher who lives in a 1-bedroom apartment. You're... She gestured around them at the custom-built sailboat and the private dock visible in the distance. Does that matter to you? He asked simply. No, Olivia said without hesitation. But I'm not naive enough to think it doesn't matter at all. There are practical realities. Practical realities can be navigated, Nathan said, reaching over to take her hand. If both people want to find the way. His hand was warm around hers, strong and steady. Olivia looked at their intertwined fingers, then up at his face, open, vulnerable, hopeful in a way she hadn't seen before. I'd like to find the way, she said softly. Nathan's smile was like sunrise breaking over the horizon, transformative, illuminating, full of promise. He leaned toward her slowly, giving her time to pull back if she wished. But Olivia found herself meeting him halfway, their lips coming together in a gentle kiss that felt like both a beginning and a culmination. When they broke apart, Nathan rested his forehead against hers. I've wanted to do that since I found you reading to Daniel in his room, he confessed. Even when you thought I was an intruder? Olivia teased. Especially then, he replied with a chuckle. You were so earnest, so concerned about getting back to your students. I knew then that you were someone special. A sound from below deck alerted them that Daniel was waking from his nap. Nathan squeezed Olivia's hand once more before releasing it, just as Daniel's tousled head appeared in the cabin doorway. Did I miss anything? He asked sleepily. Nathan and Olivia exchanged a glance filled with private meaning. Just a beautiful sunset beginning, Nathan replied. Come watch it with us. Daniel climbed onto the deck and settled between them, pointing out shapes in the clouds tinged pink and gold by the setting sun. As Olivia listened to his imaginative descriptions, occasionally catching Nathan's eye over his head, she felt a sense of rightness, of belonging, that she had never experienced before. Getting lost in the Bennett mansion had been an accident. But finding this connection, this potential for something deep and meaningful with both Daniel and Nathan, felt like the kind of fortunate mistake that might just change everything. As they sailed back toward the dock in the golden evening light, Olivia realized that sometimes the wrong turn is exactly the right one, leading to destinations you never knew you were seeking, but somehow, miraculously, needed to find. The following Monday morning, Olivia arrived at Westfield Elementary earlier than usual. The weekend with Nathan and Daniel had left her feeling energized and inspired in a way she hadn't experienced in years. She hummed softly as she prepared her classroom, arranging materials for the day's lessons with extra care. Someone had a good weekend, Megan commented, leaning against the doorframe with a knowing smile. Let me guess, it involved a certain mansion and its handsome owner? Olivia couldn't suppress her smile. We went sailing on Friday, Daniel, Nathan, and me. Megan's eyebrows shot up. Sailing? And it's Nathan now, not Mr. Bennett? This is moving faster than I expected. It's not like that, Olivia protested. But even to her own ears, the denial sounded weak. We're just getting to know each other. Uh-huh, Megan said skeptically. And that glow you're sporting has nothing to do with getting to know the gorgeous millionaire? Before Olivia could respond, Principal Harrison appeared in the doorway. Miss Reed, could I see you in my office before the bell, please? Something in his tone made Olivia's stomach tighten. Of course, Principal Harrison. I'll be right there. As the principal walked away, Megan gave her a questioning look. What was that about? I'm not sure, Olivia replied, though a suspicion was forming in her mind. I'd better go find out. Principal Harrison was seated behind his desk when Olivia entered his office. His expression unreadable. Close the door, please, Miss Reed. Olivia complied, then took the seat he indicated. Is everything all right, Principal Harrison? That depends on your perspective, he said, folding his hands on his desk. I received a rather interesting call this morning from the board of Westfield Academy. Westfield Academy was the prestigious private school across town, known for its rigorous curriculum and wealthy student body. Olivia waited, unsure where this was going. It seems they're interested in offering you a position, Principal Harrison continued. A substantial position, with a significant increase in salary and benefits. Olivia blinked in surprise. Me? Why would Westfield Academy be interested in me? Principal Harrison's mouth tightened slightly. The board president mentioned that your name came highly recommended by one of their most generous donors, a Mr. Nathan Bennett. Olivia felt as if the floor had dropped away beneath her. Nathan had recommended her for a job without discussing it with her first, a job that would take her away from the public school students she was dedicated to serving. I didn't know anything about this, she managed to say. I see. Principal Harrison studied her face. So your relationship with Mr. Bennett isn't influencing your professional decisions? The implication stung. Principal Harrison, I met Nathan Bennett less than 2 weeks ago when I got lost during our field trip. Yes, I've seen him since then, but I assure you I have never discussed employment opportunities with him, nor would I make career decisions based on a personal relationship. The principal seemed to relax slightly. I'm glad to hear it, Olivia. You're one of our most dedicated teachers, and losing you to Westfield Academy would be a significant blow to our school, especially under these circumstances. I have no intention of leaving Westfield Elementary, Olivia assured him, even as confusion and hurt swirled within her. Why would Nathan do this without talking to her first? Good, Principal Harrison nodded. However, I should remind you that relationships with parents, even parents of students not in your direct class, can create complications. I trust you'll exercise appropriate professional judgment. Of course, Olivia replied, recognizing the gentle warning for what it was. As she left the principal's office, Olivia's mind raced. She needed to talk to Nathan about this, to understand what he had been thinking. She pulled out her phone and texted him, Need to talk. Something's come up at school. Can you call when you have a moment? The response came almost immediately. In meetings until noon. Everything okay? Olivia hesitated, then typed, We need to discuss Westfield Academy. I'll wait for your call. She tucked her phone away just as the first bell rang, signaling the start of the school day. Despite her inner turmoil, Olivia did what teachers everywhere do every day. She put aside her personal concerns and focused completely on her students. She guided them through their morning lessons, praised their efforts, redirected their energies, and created the safe, stimulating environment they needed to thrive. By lunchtime, her professional composure had helped settle her emotions somewhat. She was still hurt and confused by Nathan's actions, but she was determined to hear his explanation before jumping to conclusions. Whatever his intentions, she needed to make it clear that her career choices were her own to make. Her phone rang during her lunch break, Nathan's name appearing on the screen. Hi, she answered, stepping into the empty teacher's lounge for privacy. Olivia, Nathan's voice was warm but concerned. What's this about Westfield Academy? Is everything all right? My principal called me in this morning, Olivia explained, keeping her voice level. Apparently, the board at Westfield Academy is interested in offering me a position. A position you recommended me for? There was a pause on the other end of the line. Ah, Nathan said finally. I can explain that. Please do, Olivia replied, unable to keep a hint of hurt from her voice. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're trying to arrange my life without consulting me. That wasn't my intention at all, Nathan said quickly. I was having dinner with Marcus Wilson last week. He's on the board at Westfield Academy and a business associate. He mentioned they were looking for someone with expertise in early childhood emotional development for a new program they're implementing. Your name came up naturally in conversation because I was impressed by your insights about Daniel. And you didn't think to mention this to me before recommending me for a job? Olivia asked. I didn't recommend you for a job specifically, Nathan clarified. I mentioned your qualifications and experience, and Marcus asked if he could pass your name to the headmaster. I said yes, thinking it could be an opportunity worth exploring, but I never expected them to contact your principal directly. He paused. I should have discussed it with you first. I'm sorry, Olivia. The sincerity in his apology softened her frustration. Nathan, I appreciate that you think highly of my professional abilities, but my career is important to me. I've chosen to teach at Westfield Elementary deliberately, not because I couldn't get a job at a private school. I understand that now, Nathan said quietly. I made an assumption based on my own worldview that career advancement and increased compensation would automatically be appealing. That was presumptuous of me. Olivia sighed, her anger fading. This wasn't malicious manipulation, it was a cultural misunderstanding between their different worlds. In your circles, recommending someone for a more prestigious position is probably seen as doing them a favor. Exactly, Nathan confirmed. But I should have considered how it would appear from your perspective. I'm still learning how to navigate this, us. The word us sent a flutter through Olivia despite her lingering concerns. We're from very different worlds, Nathan. If we're going to explore this connection between us, we need to be aware of those differences and respect each other's autonomy. You're absolutely right, Nathan agreed. I won't make a similar mistake again. Your career choices are yours alone, and I should have talked to you before even mentioning your name to Marcus. His willingness to acknowledge his mistake and learn from it impressed Olivia. In her experience, men with wealth and power rarely admitted when they were wrong. Thank you for understanding, she said, her tone warming. And for what it's worth, I'm not upset that you spoke highly of my professional abilities. That part is actually quite flattering. Nathan chuckled softly. Well, that's something at least. How can I make this up to you? You don't need to make anything up to me, Olivia assured him. Just talk to me before making assumptions about what I might want in the future. Agreed, Nathan said. Then, after a brief pause, speaking of talking about what you might want, Daniel has been asking when you're coming back to the estate. Would this weekend work for you? Perhaps Saturday? Despite everything, Olivia found herself smiling. I'd like that. What did you have in mind? Daniel wants to show you his latest painting. And I thought perhaps we could have dinner, just the two of us, after he goes to bed. If you're comfortable with that. A dinner date, an official step beyond the casual encounters and family outings they'd shared so far. That sounds perfect, Olivia replied, her heartbeat quickening. Excellent. I'll send Thomas for you around 4 on Saturday. I'll be ready, Olivia promised, just as the bell rang, signaling the end of lunch. I have to go. My students will be back from recess. Of course. Have a wonderful afternoon, Olivia. And thank you for giving me the chance to explain. As she returned to her classroom, Olivia reflected on their conversation. The misunderstanding about Westfield Academy had highlighted the very real differences between their worlds and approaches to life. Yet Nathan's willingness to listen, understand, and adjust his perspective gave her hope that those differences might be navigable after all. The rest of the week passed in a blur of teaching, planning, and increasing anticipation for Saturday. Olivia found herself checking her phone more often than usual, smiling at Nathan's texts. Updates about Daniel's latest adventure in the garden, a photo of a rare first edition he'd found that reminded him of her, small connections bridging the days apart. By Saturday afternoon, Olivia had changed outfits 3 times before settling on a simple but elegant dress that could transition from casual afternoon with Daniel to evening dinner with Nathan. She applied her makeup with extra care and even splurged on having her hair styled during her lunch break, small indulgences that made her feel special as she prepared for the evening ahead. Thomas arrived promptly at 4, as reliable as ever. The drive to the Bennett Estate had become familiar now, almost comforting in its routine. Olivia found herself watching for landmarks along the way. The antique store with the peculiar weather vane, the bend in the road where ancient oak trees formed a natural canopy, the ornate gates that marked the entrance to the estate. This time, Nathan and Daniel were waiting on the front steps when the car pulled up. Daniel bounded down to meet her, while Nathan followed at a more measured pace, his eyes never leaving her face. "Miss Reed, you're here! Come see my painting. I finished it yesterday and Dad helped me frame it and everything." "Hello to you too, Daniel," Olivia laughed, allowing herself to be pulled toward the house. She glanced back at Nathan, who was watching them with a soft smile that made her heart flutter. "Hello, Olivia," he said when she reached him. "You look beautiful." "Thank you," she replied, feeling a blush rise to her cheeks. Even after their sailing trip and the kiss they had shared, there was something about Nathan that still made her feel like a teenager with her first crush. Daniel led them to his art studio, chattering excitedly about his latest creation, a landscape of the garden with the pond in the foreground and the mansion in the background. It was remarkably accomplished for a 7-year-old, showing genuine talent and attention to detail. "This is wonderful, Daniel," Olivia said sincerely. "You've captured the light on the water perfectly." "Dad says I might get a painting in the student exhibition at the art museum," Daniel said proudly, "but only if my art teacher thinks it's good enough. Dad won't just buy my way in." Olivia glanced at Nathan, impressed by this approach. Many wealthy parents she had encountered used their money and influence to secure advantages for their children without consideration for merit or effort. "That's the right way to do it," she agreed. "Real accomplishment comes from earning recognition through hard work and talent, not from having it handed to you." "That's what Dad always says," Daniel nodded seriously. "He says lots of people gave him money because of his last name, but the ones who really respected him were the ones who invested because his ideas were good." Nathan looked slightly embarrassed but pleased by his son's assessment. That's oversimplifying a bit, but essentially correct. Genuine achievement is always more satisfying than handed-down success. The afternoon passed pleasantly as Daniel showed Olivia his other recent projects, and they played several rounds of his favorite board game. Nathan participated fully, his competitive streak emerging as Daniel and Olivia formed an alliance against him. "This is completely unfair," he protested with mock indignation as they strategically blocked his expansion across the game board. "2 against 1? All's fair in love and board games, Dad," Daniel replied cheekily, causing both adults to laugh. By 7 o'clock, Daniel was fighting to keep his eyes open, the excitement of Olivia's visit having worn him out. After she read him a chapter from their current book, he fell asleep almost immediately, his small face peaceful in the soft lamplight. "He adores you," Nathan said quietly as they left Daniel's room. "I've never seen him take to anyone so quickly, or so completely." "The feeling is mutual," Olivia replied honestly. "He's an extraordinary child, Nathan. You should be very proud." "I am," Nathan agreed. "Every day." He hesitated, then held out his hand to her. "Dinner should be ready. I hope you're hungry." Olivia placed her hand in his, feeling a now familiar spark at the contact. "Starving, actually. Board game warfare works up an appetite." Nathan led her not to the dining room where they had eaten before, but to a different part of the mansion entirely. They ascended a spiral staircase and emerged onto a rooftop terrace she hadn't known existed. A table for 2 had been set up beneath a pergola draped with tiny lights, creating a magical atmosphere against the backdrop of the evening sky. "Nathan," Olivia breathed, taking in the romantic setting. "This is beautiful." "I thought you might enjoy the view," he replied, guiding her to the table. "And the privacy." "As much as I love Daniel's company, I've been looking forward to having you all to myself." The meal was exquisite, each course more delicious than the last, paired with wines that complemented the flavors perfectly. As they ate, they talked about everything and nothing. Books they had loved, places they had visited, dreams they had pursued, and sometimes abandoned. "Why technology?" Olivia asked as they lingered over dessert, a decadent chocolate souffle that melted on her tongue. "With your family's resources, you could have done anything. Why choose to build a tech company?" Nathan considered the question thoughtfully. "I was always fascinated by the intersection of creativity and functionality, building things that could actually change how people live and work. My grandfather created his fortune in manufacturing, my father in real estate. I wanted to make my own mark, not just manage what came before." And you certainly have, Olivia observed. Bennett Technologies is transforming how companies approach data security, from what I've read. Nathan raised an eyebrow. Been researching me, have you? Olivia laughed. Maybe a little. I wanted to understand more about your world. And what have you concluded from your research? He asked, his tone light, but his eyes serious. That you're brilliant, driven, and more committed to ethical business practices than most in your position, Olivia replied honestly. That despite your wealth and status, you've remained surprisingly grounded, and that beneath the public persona of Nathan Bennett, tech innovator, is a man who values family above achievement and integrity above success. Nathan looked taken aback by her assessment. That's remarkably perceptive. I'm a teacher, Olivia reminded him with a smile. Observation is part of the job. What about you? Nathan asked, refilling her wine glass. What dreams have shaped your journey? Olivia thought about the question. I always knew I wanted to work with children. My mother's influence, I suppose, seeing how she changed lives one student at a time. But I had grander ambitions once. I wanted to develop educational programs for children affected by trauma, to help schools better serve students with emotional needs. What happened to that dream? Nathan asked gently. Life, Olivia shrugged. My mother got sick my last year of graduate school. Cancer. I moved back to Ohio to care for her, put my career plans on hold. After she died, I needed stability. A regular paycheck to handle the medical bills she'd left behind. Teaching at Westfield Elementary was supposed to be temporary, just until I got back on my feet financially. But you stayed, Nathan observed. I fell in love with my students, Olivia admitted. With the community. With making a difference in a school where resources are limited, but the need is great. It became more fulfilling than my original plan. Yet you still think about what might have been, Nathan suggested perceptively. Olivia nodded slowly. Sometimes. Don't we all wonder about the roads not taken? Indeed we do, Nathan agreed, his gaze drifting momentarily to the stars above before returning to her face. But sometimes I think the universe has a way of guiding us to where we're meant to be, even when the path seems accidental. Like getting lost in a mansion during a field trip? Olivia asked with a small smile. Exactly like that, Nathan replied, reaching across the table to take her hand. I'm not typically a believer in fate or destiny, Olivia. I'm a technologist. I deal in data and provable hypotheses. But meeting you the way it happened, it makes me wonder if some things are meant to be. The sincerity in his voice, the warmth in his eyes as they met hers, it all combined to create a moment of perfect connection that took Olivia's breath away. I've been wondering the same thing, she admitted softly. Nathan's thumb traced gentle circles on her palm. Where do we go from here, Olivia Reed? This connection between us, it's not something I was looking for, but now that I've found it, I don't want to let it go. I don't want to let it go either, Olivia replied, her heart racing. But Nathan, our worlds are so different. Your life is all this. She gestured at the magnificent estate spread out below them. Mine is a small apartment and a teacher's salary and grading papers on the weekend. Details, Nathan said dismissively. External trappings. What matters is this. He squeezed her hand gently. What we feel when we're together. How we see the world. The values we share. And what about the practical realities? Olivia asked. The gossip when people find out a public school teacher is dating one of the wealthiest men in the state? The assumptions they'll make about my motivations? Let them gossip, Nathan said firmly. Those who matter will see the truth. Daniel already does. The mention of Daniel softened Olivia's concerns. The child had indeed seen through all the external differences to recognize something genuine between them. Speaking of Daniel, she said carefully, have you considered how this might affect him? Getting attached to me, and then if things don't work out. Nathan's expression grew serious. I've thought about little else, Olivia. Daniel has already lost one important woman in his life. I wouldn't expose him to that risk again without careful consideration. And? Olivia prompted. And I believe that some risks are worth taking, Nathan said quietly. For both of us. For all three of us. He stood and came around the table, pulling her gently to her feet. In the soft glow of the tiny lights, with the night sky spreading endlessly above them, he looked at her with such intensity that Olivia felt as if he could see straight through to her soul. "I'm falling in love with you, Olivia Reed," he said simply. "Probably have been since I found you reading to my son with such genuine care and attention. I don't know what the future holds, but I want to discover it with you, if you'll let me." Olivia's heart seemed to expand in her chest, filled with a joy she had almost forgotten was possible. "I'm falling in love with you too, Nathan Bennett," she whispered. Against all logic and practical consideration. Nathan smiled, a full, uninhibited smile that transformed his usually serious face. "Logic is overrated," he murmured, pulling her closer. "Some of the best decisions I've ever made defied logical analysis." When he kissed her this time, it wasn't the gentle, questioning kiss they had shared on the boat. This was deeper, more certain, full of promise and possibility. Olivia wound her arms around his neck, allowing herself to sink fully into the moment, into the connection that had been building between them since that first unexpected meeting. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Nathan rested his forehead against hers. "Stay," he whispered. "Not just tonight, but in my life. In our lives." "I'm not going anywhere," Olivia promised, her voice soft but certain. As they stood together under the stars, Olivia marveled at how a simple wrong turn could lead to such a perfect destination. She had walked into the Bennett mansion as a lost teacher on a field trip and found not just her way back, but her way forward, to a connection that transcended differences in wealth and background, to a child who needed her particular kind of caring, to a man whose guarded heart had opened to her in ways neither of them had expected. Sometimes, getting lost was the only way to truly be found. And sometimes, Olivia reflected as Nathan drew her close again, the most beautiful journeys begin with a single misstep. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.